Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today with our 1 week 1 palette video. So I'm wearing no eyeshadows on my eyes, which means I'm going to be putting some on my eyes. Now, before I continue, I am testing out new Bourjois. These are called Velvet the Pencil. Strange name, but they're kind of beautiful. This one is shade number 13, so that's what I'm wearing today. People wanted to know. But the palette that I'm going to be focusing on for the next 7 days or so of looks will be from Too Faced. This is a new palette. It's called the Born This Way, the Natural Nudes palette. I was lucky enough to be sent this by a Beauty News subscriber, so you know who you are. I know who you are. I love you. Thank you very much. That was really sweet. So I'm getting to try this, which I'm super excited for because if you have been watching my channel for a while, even though I know color is really popular and it's a thing that people click on, thing that people are really excited about, I'm back into nudes. There is a thing where I'm just like, I want a really beautiful eye look that just sculpts the eye, makes me feel like I look good, I look better than I do without it, and I'm really into that. So this is what I'm going to be trying today on camera for the first time, and then what I'll do is I'll check back in over a period of anywhere from 4, 5, 6, 7 days, with different looks to let you know what I think about this palette overall. So that's how we do it. That's what I'll be doing. There will be timestamps in the description box. So if you want to jump around to swatches or the different looks, you can do that. These generally tend to go for a while because I'm documenting something over quite a long period of time. But along with that, I will also be reviewing this palette, which is the Born This Way Turn Up the Light palette. This is in the shade medium, so it came out at the same time as this palette, but it's a highlighting palette. Now, I stupidly did my makeup today with Project Pan stuff. I wanted to use a lot of my Project Pan highlighter so I can make good progress on it, and then it hit me that I should be demonstrating this today. So what I'll do over the next few days is I'll check back in demonstrating this. So I will be applying each shade on camera, just not today. But this palette is currently available on the Too Faced website and I believe a few places in store. I will link details down below. Of course, when it comes out in different countries and the price it's going to be is going to vary. But yeah, I don't know all details about when this is being released and where, and I'm probably not going to. So you're going to have to do your research if you like it. All right, so the box and the palette are the same sort of packaging, and the premise of it, like, it looks weird because it looks like foundation shade range, and the premise of it is that they sort of took their Born This Way foundation shade range and they used it to create a nude palette that will suit a lot of skin tones. Now, I like that idea, but I also feel like that idea is a bit funny because you have your own skin tone, and if you have like a little section that's designed for you, what do you do with the others? But hopefully with just a big nude palette, most people can use it in a variety of different ways. But the concept was taking their foundation shade range and trying to create shades that pair nicely with different skin tones. That was the concept. So there are a total of 16 eyeshadows in this palette. 8 of them contain 0.5 gram, which I believe the shimmer shades, and then there's 8 of them that contain 1 gram of product. So in total, this is a 12 gram eyeshadow palette. So it is a cardboard palette that's quite sleek. It does have a mirror in it. It's a really good size mirror, which is fantastic. So what I do like about this is the sort of design and the pairing. I think the distribution between the shimmers and the mattes is quite realistic of how you're going to use the eyeshadows. So generally you use more mattes to sort of blend out a look or put in the crease than you would a shimmer. Some people will be different, but I think that's a nice sort of balance. I also like that they've sort of done easy pairings, because if you aren't familiar with pairing eyeshadows, it can be quite daunting, and this is a really simple way to sort of go, okay, what matte goes with what shimmer, so I think it's a really smart move. Now, there are 16 shades, so there are 8 shimmers, and they contain 0.5 gram of product each, and then the mattes contain 1 gram of product. So these pans are double the size of that pan. So I will swatch that palette very, very shortly, just on my bare arm with no primer, but let's first look at this highlighter palette that I will be demonstrating tomorrow and over the next few days. So this is one of, I think there's 4 shades available of this, and this is the medium, like I said. So this has coconut water, alpine rose, and hyaluronic acid in it, which is interesting. But essentially it isn't like a highlighter palette. It's quite large. You'll see. This is deceptively large. So compared to my hand, you can see how big this is. Compared to my face, you can see how big it is. Compared to this eyeshadow palette, you can see how big this palette is. This face palette's not tiny. I believe it's only a few dollars cheaper than this. So it isn't a really, really cheap highlighter palette, but it's very big. And according to the packaging, this actually contains 8 grams of product. So you have the middle pan that's 5 grams, and then each of these side pans are 1.5 grams each. So this, you might go, what is this? What is happening here? Essentially it is, and I'll have a photo of the screen of different shades that there's available, but essentially it's 3 shades of a very similar tone, but they have different finishes. So we have here Glow, then we have Soft Focus and Dazzle. So essentially you pick the highlighter shade that you like the color of, and then you have 3 different finishes. So this is more of your traditional highlighter finish. So this Glow gives you probably the equivalent of what I'm wearing today. Then this one reminds me more of the Hourglass ambient lighting powders. So they're like a glowy powder that you could use as a highlighter. You could probably use on your face. And then you have one that's a little bit more sparkly. So that's more of, sparkly going out sort of texture. So same sort of tones, but different textures. I think this is a really cool idea because often you see highlighter palettes where they have different colors, but the same texture. And sometimes they're so similar that they look the same on your face. Other times they're so different that you might have like a highlighter trio and you only really use one shade. So at least with this, you know the shade suits you. It's just about what finish you feel like going for on that particular day. So I will demonstrate all of these throughout the next couple of days, and at the end as well I'll tell you what I think about it, but I will also swatch these because I'm curious. So the packaging of this is a lot bulkier than the eyeshadow palette. It is made out of plastic. It is quite sturdy, and it does have like a magnetic closure. It doesn't have a clip, so it could just easily, if you threw it in your bag, it could open, but the magnetic closure is fairly sturdy. All right, so this is the Glow, which is more of your traditional sort of highlighter finish. Then we have the Soft Focus, which again is more like an ambient lighting powder. It's hard to see on my skin tone because it looks quite yellow, but this would suit my face nicely. So it's a little bit more soft. I might build it up so you can see it in a second. But then we've got the Glitter, which is sort of like, there's no base color, but it's just a bit of a glitter sheen, which is actually really pretty. But I'm surprised at how sort of twinkly and nice that is. It's not too chunky and bold and like frosty. I'll just build this one up so you can see it a little bit better on my skin tone. Again, it looks sort of yellow, but it would suit my face a little bit better. People would probably think I'm more suited for the light, but I just like this tone a little bit better. It's a little bit warmer, which I vibe with. All right, while I'm here, I might also use a brush just to demonstrate them. So this is that more traditional highlighter. You can see it's a nice sort of champagne goldy color, which I really do like. I've just wiped off my brush on a color switch type product. And then we've got the, what is this one called? Soft Focus. So this one can barely see it on my skin. It's just a bit of it, like an ambient lighting powder. It gives a bit of a diffused glow. And then here is Dazzle, which you can see is just a bit of a sparkly kind of, oh, can you even see it? All right, I'm finding it very hard to demonstrate the sparkly one. It's around here. You can just see a bit of it. All right, time for the eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to do them in the duos. So we've got Swan, which is the cream matte that actually applies really nicely for a matte cream. Like, it looks like my skin tone, but it's quite bold. Then we have this, whoa, okay, that was not expected. That is a really beautiful, it's almost quite, I don't know, it's quite creamy feeling. It's a shimmer and it's got a peachy shift. So it is like a very, very light shimmer, and what you can't see on camera is it's almost like a duochromy peach. It's really, really gorgeous. Okay, the next duo, I'm noticing that the mattes are very finely milled and super soft to pick up. They're not like flaky, soft. They don't pick up much product in the pan, but they just feel so smooth to pick up. And the shimmers are very emollient. They seem really grippy. That one's gorgeous. I really like these so far. All right, the next duo, we have more of a taupey sort of cooler tone transition rather than a more champagne-y and sort of caramel color. And this one, oh my God, it's like a rose gold. They're very, very wet feeling. They're really gorgeous. They're not wet, but they're very creamy. So that was more of a nude duo. And then we have more of a rose gold sort of pinky duo. So this is more of a peachy pink crease color, which is gorgeous. Nice matte, nice pigmentation. And bam, that's a beautiful sort of rose gold shimmer. These are really pretty. All right, so that's the first 8 shades. So they're the lightest shades. I'm not sure if you can see that duochrome from the first one, but the mattes are really soft and really sort of nicely pigmented but blendable. And the shimmers all feel a little bit emollient. They feel like they're a little bit wet and grippy to the skin, but they're very, very high shine and really gorgeous. And you can see the color pairings work really nicely together, so it's pretty foolproof. All right, so we're getting into slightly deeper shades. This is more of a sort of, it's like a mauvey rose color, and this is a gorgeous shimmer. God, they're really, really pretty. Look at that. So that's the duo I just swatched. You can see it's more of a pinky purple mauve shade. On me, it does look quite warm toned, but that's that one. Then we have more of the goldy duo. So this is a very warm toned mid-tone brown. It's got a lot of sort of caramel tones to it. I might just brighten it so you can see it a little bit better on camera, but there's that sort of coppery gold. So that's more of, definitely more warm. That's definitely more cool toned. This is the second deepest. So this is more of a cooler, ready toned matte, but a little bit deeper than this one. And then the shade that pairs with it is a gorgeous sort of bronzy brown, which I love. I wish this was a little bit more, I don't know, cool toned, because I don't think they match as well as other duos, but they're still really pretty. And lastly, the deepest combo. So we have more of a chocolate brown. So even those two could go really well together. And then we have a really dark brown. So that's more of a brown bronze. That's more of a shimmery dark brown. So those are the last 8 shades. Really nice pairings again, and you can see the different undertones and the different depths there. All right, so I'm really impressed by the swatches. They look like they swatch really nicely. I should actually show you how the pans look after I've swatched them. So they don't look like they are like kicking up a lot of powder. There's not a lot of dent going on. You can see these barely look touched. Even the little designs have barely looked touched. So the pigmentation is there without needing to like gouge into the palette or having to kick up a lot of product. So I'm very excited. I think I might play with sort of this area here today because I really love this duo. And I think I don't want to do anything too complicated or too much because I think they're supposed to be quite simple. So yeah, I might go around here somewhere. I'm going to start by putting some eyeshadow primer on, and I've had to brighten this a lot because it's currently getting quite overcast. It might start raining. So I'm just going to put some NARS eyeshadow primer on. This is in the shade medium. Just going to blend that out with Colourpop brush. All right, so I've got the primer on. I do have a little bit of mascara from earlier today when I went down to the shops and didn't want to look like I had no eyes. But I'm going to start with just, I might actually start with the shade Nude because I want to sort of set that but put a little bit of depth. Whoa, those are really nicely pigmented. I wasn't expecting that. I probably should have started with Swan just to set my base. I didn't, oopsie daisy, but let's just apply that a little bit lighter. All right, so that applied really nicely. It is quite pigmented but easy to blend. So you can see it's just added some color into the crease there, which is really nice. I'm going to go in with the shade Maple. So this is a little bit warmer and a little bit deeper on just with the same brush. You can see the color difference there. And I'm just going to deepen that a little bit. All right, with an Esom brush, this is more just like a flat sort of fluffier brush. This is the W23. I'm going to put some colors on the lid. I'm going to try to just use this brush for now because I don't want to dirty too many brushes. But I want the shade Sugared Chestnut because I really love those sort of bronzy browns. I'm curious to see how the shimmers pick up and deposit because I do feel a little bit wet. So sometimes those shades don't pick up super well on the brush. So let's just see if this does. These are not, yeah, these are actually not bad. Like, look how gorgeous that color is. Wow. These, because these are a little bit more emollients, they sort of feel a little bit grippier and a little bit wetter. They don't have much fallout. There's no fallout actually. And it also, they don't kick up much product in the pan. So they just sort of go on really, really nicely and they have a really beautiful effect. So that's applied fairly sheerly, not super sheer, but you know, it's not built up too much. But you can see there's an even amount of color. And if you wanted to build it up even more, I'm sure you can go in there. But that's a really beautiful shimmer. I love that formula. So I like it. I like it. I'm just going to use a tiny bit on the tip of that same brush just to run on the lower lash line of that same color, because I do like a bit of a diffused lower lash line. All right, so far I'm really loving these formulas. The shimmer's applying really, really nicely. The matte's applying really nicely. The tones are really flattering, beautiful nudes. Not much work to do anything. With this brush, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of truffle. So I am jumping around a little bit. I might start pairing some duos throughout the week, but I sort of wanna jump around a little bit now. So this is the darkest matte. Just putting that a little bit on my lower lash line. You can see how pigmented that is. A little bit in the outer corner. Again, not any fallout, and it's just, I don't know, beautiful to blend. I feel like I've got a little bit more warmth up here, so I'm just going back in with that fluffy brush and that maple shade and just sort of evening out the sort of blend with the mattes. And I'm just going in with a smaller brush. This is just one from Eco Tools. This is the Petite Eye Shading Brush. And I've just got that golden light shade, and I'm just going to pop it on the mid of the lid just to add a little bit of brightness here. So a bit of a sort of halo eye thing going on the top lid. So that's actually a gorgeous combination. Wow, that really sets off, like the brown really sets off that coppery gold. It's gorgeous. So just that element adds a lot more brightness to the look, which is really pretty. So you can see how all those shades worked really beautifully together. And essentially what I used, okay, I used that originally in the crease, then that in the crease, that on the lid, that to deepen it, and then just that on the pop of the lid. And you can see how they all worked so nicely together, and it was so easy to apply. Literally took me a few minutes. It's just what I like in eyeshadows. So I'm gonna go off and do my liner and a bit more mascara, and I'll come back and let you know what I think about this straight away, and then I'll check back in with looks. All right, so that's a look with, I put some black winged liner on, I put a brown pencil on and a bit more mascara. I really love this look. I'm bummed that I'm not going anywhere or doing anything after this, because I'm like, this is a waste. This is a wasted look. All right, so that was really simple to put on. I think the colors work really well together. I love this final look. I need to make my brows a little bit more bold. I feel like they're a little bit light for this look. But the eyeshadows performed really, really nicely. So they didn't need to be applied with a finger. They didn't need glitter glue. They didn't have fallout. I found the mattes to be quite pigmented, but really nicely blendable. They're very soft to the touch and just really nice to apply. All the shimmers, like I haven't applied them all yet, but they feel a little bit wet almost, and luckily that picked up really nicely with the brush. It applied really nicely on the eye, and yeah, if you go in sort of similar sort of color areas, I think you can use all shades together without having to think about it. If you don't know how to like combine colors, it's almost done it for you. I think it's really, really beautiful. All right, so look number 2, I decided to, it's a little bit more dramatic because we're filming beauty news today, so I decided to go for that sort of pink area. So I started with this shade, which is the matte. It's hard to see, it's that sort of pinky, peachy shade. I put that in the crease and on the lower lash line. I then put this shade all over the lid. So it's sort of like a shimmery, I don't know, like mauvey, rosy color, which is really pretty. I put that shade, which is a bit deeper and more purple tone than this one, just in the outer corner and into the crease. Then I went really light because that one I thought looked really beautiful in the swatches. I sort of buffed that in the inner corner. It's a little bit chunky, but it does give a nice brightness. And then I sort of thought the transition from that shade to the lid shade was a little bit dark, so I grabbed some of that pink shimmer and I put it on the lower lash line and transitioned to the shimmer on the top. So this shade is only on the top lid, and that's predominantly matte with this shade and that shade, but it is a really pretty sort of rosy nude look. I've paired it with some wing liner and some lashes, and I think it's really nice and twinkly in real life. I think the inner corner, which hopefully we'll be able to see a bit more when I zoom in, that sort of, what is it, glistening snow, that shade there, because it does have like a peachy, almost iridescence to it. It adds a little bit of warmth. So it's very, very pink and very sort of hazy rosy, but then there's a little bit of warmth in there that I really like. So I thought that worked really well as a highlighter, even though it was a little bit chunky and I had to sort of buff it in, but it still worked well. And everything else, you know, applied really nicely. I had no issues with it. I really like this sort of pinky look. Before I do zoom in, I didn't put highlighter on today. I'm very good. I finally remembered, and I want to use one of these highlighters. Now, I sort of want to use... Look, I'm filming beauty news today, so I can go a little bit more dramatic with my makeup. So I'm thinking either Dazzle, which is a sparkly one, or Glow, which is a more traditional one. And then what I might do tomorrow when I've just got an editing day and I'm paring down the makeup a little bit, I might try a soft focus. But I sort of want to try the Dazzle one because it didn't swatch very well. Okay, so with just a Real Techniques brush, I really like these setting brushes for highlighter. I'm going in with Dazzle, which is a sparkly sort of flaky thing. You can't really see it on the brush because it is just sort of sparkly. And I'm going to see if you can do anything. Oh yeah, it's pretty. So it is just like a twinkly sparkle. You can see it. It's definitely there. It gives a bit of a wet look, but close up, I'll show you probably close up. It is definitely like a micro glitter, but because it doesn't have any base color to it, it does add a really pretty sort of twinkle. It doesn't look like chunks of sparkle or chunks of glitter. It does give a really nice sort of, like there's no base color and then you've got a bit of sparkle, and compared to nothing, which is this. We'll do it again just to demonstrate so we can see it a second time. I made sure my blush today was a matte blush, so there's no shine, but the highlight, it's actually really beautiful. Okay, swatches like garbage, like when you do a diffused sort of swatch on your arm, swatches like garbage, but it's actually very, very pretty. All right, so that's the eye look. You can definitely see there's a lot of shimmer going on. I didn't really have to pack it on. I didn't have to use a special base. The mattes blended really, really nicely and applied a nice amount of color. So I went with that sort of peachy pink and that sort of mauvey pink matte. It's created a really nice sort of romantic eye. I'm not sure, again, if you can see that inner corner highlight, even though it is a lighter shade, it almost has, like, it's got almost got a white base, but then it's got a bit of a peachy warm shift. So it does add a bit of a light gold to the look, which I think is really pretty. Hopefully we can see the highlighter a little bit closer up. So it is a micro sparkle, but it's not chunky. It looks really smooth on the skin, but it is made up of little particles of shimmer with no base color, which I think is really pretty. It just catches a light in a really, really pretty way. So I like it. All right, so I'm back for look number 3. This one is a lot more sort of pared back. I'm just doing stuff around the house today, a bit of admin, and then trying to do some organizing in this room, which is a mess. So I decided to just sort of pare back the eyeshadow, and I wanted to use just a duo, so a pairing to see how well they work together. So I decided to go for this duo here because on me, it's sort of like, I prefer these sort of tones as like nudes for me, but I thought I wanted to try something a little bit lighter because that's probably what more traditionally people would pair with my skin tone. And I have to say, I really like the formula. Again, it's not a surprise. I've liked it the last couple of days. This is a really beautiful sort of twinkly shade. So this is quite lived in. I think I've done my makeup like, I don't know, 5 hours ago. But you can see it's just a nice sort of peachy, like light gold shimmer. And then the matte was really, really pretty as well. It was just like a warm sort of soft peachy brown that I put in the crease and a little bit on the lower lash line. And I think it's just applied really well, worn really well, is really flattering on the eye. So I think the pairings are really nice. But that was the one that I wanted to go for today for my like minimal sort of makeup look. But I did want to try one of the highlighters. So I haven't used this since filming the last time, demonstrating the glittery one, which I ended up quite liking, and it wore quite nicely throughout the day. I do want to try this soft focus powder. I feel like this is supposed to be more of a hourglass all over sort of illuminating powder, which I don't really like on my oily skin. But I've got a brush, I've just wiped that off. So it was the same brush that I used with this one the other day. But I want to see if this can be used as a highlighter. So when I did swatch this on my arm the other day, it looked quite dark for my skin tone. I am sort of a lighter skin tone, and this is the shade medium. So obviously it's not supposed to suit me properly, but I really like this tone more than I like sort of frosty tone, so that's why I wanted to go for this one. So I've just got a bunch on my brush, and I just want to see if you can add a little bit of a luminosity as a highlighter, because I still think this is probably designed as a face powder because it is 5 grams of product, which is quite a lot. But let's see if we can give it a bit of a glow. So I think you can. I think that's actually really pretty. It's sort of hard to tell because my skin gets luminous on its own, but I've got no highlighter on today. I've put a matte blush on. Let's just see if I can add some luminosity here. All right, so I think if you do build it up, you can get a bit of luminosity. Again, I think some of it might just be my natural sort of glow, but yeah, do I call it a highlighter? No, I definitely think that's more of a illuminating face powder, and if you don't like using it all over your face, which I won't like to do because it sort of just emphasizes my oily skin, I'm just going to put some on my nose. You can sort of get it to give a bit of a natural sort of glow, but you'd have to use quite a lot, and it's not super effective. So yeah, I just thought I'd test that while I've got my sort of minimal makeup on. And if you're the type of person that doesn't like highlighters because they do emphasize skin texture, this type of glow you'd probably like because it gives a little bit of luminosity, a little bit of dimension to your skin without the sort of texture emphasizing elements. So I don't hate it. I just sort of wish that, I don't know, I sort of wish that they had this as a separate product and then they had 3 like legitimate highlighters. Because I think some people that are going to like these won't like this. It's going to be people that like them all, or there's going to be people that just like that and want it on its own. So I think that would have been better as like its own pan of product, but there we go. All right, so hopefully you can see that there is some really nice shimmer going on. It's nothing too intense. It's sort of like this peachy nude sort of gold wash of color, which looks really pretty and just brightens up the eyes. And then the mattes just sort of blended it out and completed it. They were really, really nice to apply as well. I do think it's probably maybe faded a little bit throughout the day, but I still think it's a nice effective eye look and was really easy to throw on. And yeah, I think if you like a really quick sort of like 2 color look, this sort of palette's really good to pair the matte and the shimmer is very pretty. All right, it's day number 4, and this is the look I created. So it's still pretty nude, but I decided to wear some lashes and some orange liner. So I used an Inglot liner. I don't know the number, but so pretty much what I did today was I wanted to mix some like pinks and the gold sort of colors. So I used this lighter pink all over the lid, and then I blended it out with this shade here, which is that sort of more orangey tone, and then I used some gold on the inner corner and the outer corner. So I sort of used it like sort of like a halo eye a little bit, but not quite. So gold, pink, gold, and then blended it out with this shade here. So I will zoom in a second, but I do want to try the last formula of the highlighter. So it's this one here, which is the Glow. So it's more of the traditional highlighter that most people will be familiar with. So I've got no highlighter on today, just my normal shine. And then let's put some on. So this is just a really pretty sort of warm sort of champagne gold color. So very, very pretty. You can build it up, looks nice and wet look. I think this is a really beautiful. I don't know, I like highlighters to use like this. I don't like using finishing like illuminating powders all over my face. So I definitely reach for this palette more for the glitter shade and the traditional highlighter. They are pretty, but yeah, I'll continue to use this and let you know more what I think about it at the end, but I did want to demonstrate all three of them. All right, so this is a little bit worn in, so I've probably been wearing this for about 5 hours now, but I've got that shimmery pink all over the lid. I'm not sure if you can see the distinction between the pink and, no, it's focusing on my ear. Good move, camera. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see the distinction between the pink on the lid and the gold, but I pretty much did it to just warm up the pink a little bit because I wanted to make more of an orangey kind of look. And in person, it almost gives like a rose gold effect. So it looks rosy, but then sort of highlights gold, which is really pretty. I definitely think this is a little bit more impactful and sort of twinkly, and you can see the nuances in color a lot more in person. On camera, I don't know if you can see it. All right, so this is look number, what is it, 5? It's quite bright at the moment because it's quite early. So we've got the morning light coming in, but I'm just about to head out. So I just thought I'd check in really quickly. I decided to wear the sort of, what is it? The middle powder. I set my face with a normal powder and then I put some over it. So I don't even know if it's really showing up as a glow. Didn't really notice much difference. And I did try to apply a bit of it. So I don't know how I feel about that middle powder in the highlight palette, but I am putting a little bit of that highlighter that I applied yesterday, the more traditional highlighter, just a little bit on the tops of my cheekbones on my nose. So that is that highlighter sort of diffused, applied quite lightly. So that's the highlighter situation with my eyes, which I don't even know if you're going to be able to see in this lighting, but I've decided to pick the colors that I thought were sort of the most nude for me. So I put that in the crease, that all over the lid. I also applied it over just a bit of concealer. So not even wearing a primer today. Sort of like, I don't know, bit of makeup, but like nude. I'm trying to go very nude. So yeah, I put that all over the lid, but I didn't pack it on. I just sort of swiped it on and applied nicely. That's on the lower lash line as well. And then I took a little bit of this brown. So I thought that darker brown, is that, yeah, that's the one I went for, Cocoa. So I put that just in the outer corner a little bit to deepen it, and the lower lash line, put a bit of pencil liner, bit of mascara. And again, I don't know if you can really see the effect of it because of the current lighting situation, which is like sun sort of blaring in, but you know, it's just a bit awkward. So yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it just creates a really nice sort of, I'll try to describe it in the mirror. It looks very natural. It almost has a brown sort of pinky mocha tone to it, which I really like. The mattes blended really nicely, and I really like the combination of the sort of nude colors and that cocoa color because they just complemented really nicely. So if you do want to just add a bit of depth in the outer corner like I did, the darker shades work really nicely with sort of like the lighter shades. All right, so I'm back with day, I think it's look number 6, and I decided to go more of a dark smoky brown look today. I am wearing the sort of traditional highlighter, so the traditional highlighter formula. I do like it. It is very pretty. So pretty much what I'm wearing today, I blended, like I set the primer with this shade here. I then went in with that shade all over the lid. So that sort of dark, it's like a bronze. I'd say that's a bronze. Then I also took that darker shimmery brown, which has a bit of a blackened base. So I put that in the outer corner. So you can see the inner half is more this shade, outer half is more that shade. I then deepened the crease a little bit with this shade and then deepened the lash line more with this really dark brown shade to give it a really smoky sort of effect. I went in with the inner corner. I originally wanted to go this pink color, but it sort of looked a little bit too weird on the brown. Not weird, but it looked very pink. So I applied this shade over the top. So it's a bit of a mishmash of different shades, but I essentially wanted to use these dark browns today. That's what I've done. I'll zoom in and show you the look. So I do like this look. It is quite dramatic, but very effective, and they applied really nicely. They blended really nicely. There was no issues. There was no fallout. So yeah, if you do like a bit of a smoky brown look, I think these tones are really, really gorgeous. And I do overall like the effect. So yeah, so it's just the dark browns with some of the sort of mix between that sort of shimmery nude and that rosy shade on the inner corner. I put some winged liner on and some half lashes, but yeah, that's the dark brown shades. All right, I'm back with the last look, and it's quite a dramatic look. I wasn't going to wear lashes, but I decided to wear lashes. And I wanted to try the sort of warm shades in this as the predominant look. So what I did was I put this all over the lid. I blended it out with that shade down there, blended that shade on the lower lash line. As a bit of pop of brightness on the inner corner, I used this shade and I used it foiled. Now, when I used it foiled, it did change the sort of finish of it. So it made it look more flat and metallic, whereas these sort of shades can look a little bit chunky and flaky almost and need a bit of like buffing to blend in. So adding a bit of finishing spray to my brush did apply this a little bit more metallic, which was really nice. But I also found that if I applied too much of it, it did end up, once it dried, it sort of looked a little bit cracked and textured. But I find that that's the issue with any foiled eyeshadows on my eyelids. I don't know if it's because I'm aging or whatnot, but whenever I foil an eyeshadow, I find that it ends up looking heavy and sort of cracked. So I'm not holding it against the eyeshadow. I'm just saying that that is my experience with it, but that's my experience with all sort of foiled eyeshadows. So yeah, if you do like to wet your eyeshadows and apply them more bold, you can do that with these, and it gives more of a metallic finish, like a flat metallic finish rather than that sort of sparkly consistency. So yeah, I did that on the inner corner. And then what I did was I went in with some of this dark brown, put it right at the root of my lash line, blended it out, also blended out my brown liner, put a little bit more in the crease to make it a little bit more bold. And I really love having a dark brown matte in a palette like this because I find you can really work it into your lashes to really enhance your lashes. So yeah, that's what I did there. Before I do zoom in, I'm just going to say I'm also wearing the highlighter palette. And I think this gives a good indication of the glow that it gives because I'm wearing the Dazzle shade. So I'm wearing this shade again, the sparkly shade, and I find that it doesn't look sparkly. Like if you look really close up, you're like, oh yeah, there's little tiny, tiny flecks of sparkle, but it just gives almost like a glass-like finish, which I think is emphasized by the fact that it is pouring rain and I'm under studio light, so you can see it catches the light a lot better than what it would in sort of real life. But yeah, you can see that it gives that sort of glass effect, which I think is really, really pretty. So I dig it. But I've been wearing these for hours now, probably about 6 or so hours. So it's a bit lived in, but yeah, that's the face. All right, so I do have dramatic lashes on, but you can see that I do have that sort of warm goldy color all over the lid. I've got that foiled shade sort of in the inner corner. You can see it's sort of cracking a little bit there. Just doesn't make my liner look flat and neat. It sort of makes it look bumpy. Got the warmth in that sort of orangey brown, and I've added some really dark brown to the roots and to the outer corners and a little bit into the crease, and I've got some stray brow hairs going on. But what I do like about this color combination, so I did want to try the sort of, you know, orangey tones together, but I think it's a really flattering tone. So sometimes when I use these orangey golds, they look a little bit sickly on me, but I find this tone is actually really pretty. So yeah, that's that. And hopefully you can see close up that sort of glass-like. I do have a blemish here, so it's going to look a bit textured, but you can see that it is micro sparkle, but it's really, really pretty. It's like gives a glass effect to the face. I feel like this plant looks ridiculous behind me. But anyway, it's time to conclude what I think about these palettes. And I'm going to start with the face palette because I can sort of talk about it quicker. I do want to say that I do like this. I really love the concept of the same color story over different finishes. So once you find a color story that suits you, you can just tweak the finish based on, you know, what you feel on that particular day. Definitely, I think these are ones I would reach for the most because this is more of your traditional highlighter. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I do. When I swatched it originally, it looks just like sparse, flaky, little micro glitter specks. But you can see that it gives just this glass-like finish to the skin that's really, really beautiful. And yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I sort of thought this was going to be really garish and one of those stripes of highlighter that just looks like you've got like a metallic strip on your face that I don't like, but it's not that at all. So this is surprisingly really pretty. So I'll use both of those happily on a daily basis. When it comes to this middle one, I think this is more suited for people with drier skin and that want a little bit of a luminosity over the face. I did try to use this today to set my under eyes. I didn't love it. I didn't do much. So for me, I will probably force myself to use this more on days where I'm not wearing much makeup and I just want a little bit of brightness to my skin. But for me, it's one that I will reach for the least because it's not a setting powder for me. If I apply it over a setting powder, I don't really see much benefit to it. So it seems like an added step that doesn't really benefit my makeup routine. But if you do like ambient lighting powders from Hourglass, you'll probably like something like this. I will probably just use it as a very subtle highlighter on days where I'm wearing minimal makeup. So that's probably what I'll use this for. But I would have loved to have seen 3 even pans of different textures of noticeable highlighters. So yeah, for me, I sort of feel like I'm using a fraction of the palette, but I understand why it's there. I just would have liked to have seen them put something a little bit different here. Maybe something that's a little bit more highlighty. So if you are the type of person that wants a very, very, very subtle highlighter that can still be seen on the cheekbones, you can reach for that one. Or if you want to dust it all over your face, you get a subtle luminosity. But this sort of leans more finishing powder than it does highlighter in my opinion. So don't hate it, but I'm going to reach for the palette for these two. And unfortunately, these are 1.5 grams each, and that's 5 grams. So I still feel like the value for me isn't quite there. So I wouldn't repurchase or buy another one of these in a different shade, just because I know that I'm not using the majority of the palette. But I do think the highlighters in here are beautiful. Onto the eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to say I love this. I want to reach for it all the time. When I'm wearing subtle looks, when I'm wearing bold looks, I think it stands up really, really well. I love the formula. I love the shades. I really like it. I like the simplicity of pairing the shades. So if you're not advanced with pairing eyeshadows, you can just do the duos really, really easily. But if you are a little bit more advanced, you can literally close your eyes and just pick a couple of colors and all shades work well together. So I understand that they're gone, okay, these are for lighter skin tones. These are for cooler skin tones, warmer skin tones. Like this would be beautiful on a tan skin tone. It look gorgeous. These are more like deeper skin tones. I understand that that's the inspiration behind the layout, but they all work beautifully on my skin tone. I'm sure they'll all work beautifully on most skin tones because I've picked really flattering shades and they all work together really nicely. So again, I love the fact that you can reach for this gold and pair it with that, or reach for the brown and pair it with that, or whatever it happens to be. You're not stuck in the color stories to make a flattering look. That's just the easiest way to use it, but you can easily jump around and mix any two together to create a really cohesive, beautiful look. And that's what I look for in an eyeshadow palette, because I know that I'm going to use all shades evenly, or I'm going to at least use all shades. There's so many eyeshadow palettes out there that I'm like, oh, I like these 3 shades, but the other 14 I don't really like, or they don't really work well together. These all work really well together, and I really love the formula as well. So I think the only downside with the formula for me is that these lighter sort of shimmery shades are a little bit flaky, so you do need to sort of work them in well if you want a sort of even sort of effect. If you build them up on the inner corner, they can be a little bit flaky, but otherwise I think they give a really beautiful effect. They're very, very sort of sparkly, but not too intense. You can always, apply them over a glitter glue and make them quite bold, or you can just apply more of it to make it bold, but you can create subtle looks, you can create bolder looks, and even though there are only 2 textures in here, so you've got the matte and the shimmer is really, really beautiful. It's like that weird sort of wet, almost wet feeling that grips really nicely to the eye. It doesn't have fallout. It doesn't take much to build up. But what I like about it as well is they do have sort of nuances throughout the shades. So these are more like toppers. They're quite sheer. This pink is more of a sheer. So it's more of a sparkle with not much of a base. But then if you get into these sort of deeper shades, they do have more pigment to the base. So they look more bold. So they do give different effects. And you can definitely use some of these lighter ones to layer over the top of other shades to add a little bit more brightness or nuance. I think they're really, really beautiful. And when it comes to the mattes, they're very, very sort of like finely milled and soft, but they don't kick up much powder. They're not dry, which is really great because I'm so used to having to reach or compromise and have really like powdery eyeshadows if you want pigmentation and nice blendability, whereas these offer pigmentation and nice blendability without the raining down of pigment on your face. So like you can actually apply them without worrying about fallout. You can do your base first, you don't have to worry about it. So I think the formula of these are beautiful, the colors are beautiful, the effects they give are beautiful. And even though it is just a nude palette, I think it's a very, very flattering nude palette, and it'll be flattering on most people. Like if you've got the deepest of deep skin, you might not want to reach for these shades too much, but you can reach for the rest. If you've got the lightest of light skin, you don't like really, really dark shades, like you can use those. Like the majority of it, I think, is usable for everyone, which is really fantastic. And I think this is a stand-up nude eyeshadow palette. This is how you do nudes well. I think they've reinvented the nude eyeshadow palette, and I really, really like it. So if you're after a good nude and you like Too Faced, this is a great palette. I really, really love it. And I'm going to keep using it because that's what I want to do tomorrow. That's how much I like it. So that's my review. I give this an outstanding thumbs up. I give this like big thumbs up if you've got dry skin, you're going to use the middle shade. If you're not going to use the middle shade, I give it a thumbs up, but like you're probably not going to get the maximum value for it. But the highlighters are really beautiful. And if you were scared of that sparkly one, don't be, because it's gorgeous. All right, so thank you so much for watching, guys. If you've tried these, let me know what you think about them in the comments. I will link a few places you can buy them if you're interested. So yeah, that's about it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.